for the town of Duxbury for this evening. We have 3 matters on. None of them, it appears, have ever been addressed before, so we're going to have to do the formal opening. We're doing this in a hybrid way, and because we're doing it in a hybrid way, the governor requires us to read some things. So pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote in accordance with applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public and board members, this hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless required by law. You can watch this in real time on the Duxbury Government Access Channels, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9, and you can watch it later on PAC TV. All right, so the first matter we have on is case number 2024-03, and it deals with the Pine Woods Animal Hospital at 612 Congress Street. The Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing tonight here to consider the application of the Pine Woods Animal Hospital, care of Jennifer Johnson, DVM, for a special permit under Articles 400, 600, and 900, Sections 402, 404, 410, 601, 601.3, 601.4, 601.6, 601.9, and 906.2 of the Duxbury bylaw. The property is located at 612 Congress Street, parcel number 027-701-141 of the assessor's map, consisting of 0.65 acres in the residential compatibility, flood hazard overlay, and wetlands protection overlay districts, and it's owned by 612 Congress Street LLC. The applicant proposes to replace the existing freestanding sign with a new sign reflecting the new business of Pinewood Animal Hospital. A special permit is required. The application could be viewed on the town's website. Individuals with disabilities could request accommodations. So we're going to open up the hearing. The first thing that we have is a permit request in the form of an application. We have some, it looks like photo sims of the new sign and a printout of what the sign would look like in terms of colors and layout. And we have a site plan. We've got a memo from the Board of Appeals, to the Board of Appeals from the health agent. The Board of Health has no comments on the application to install a sign. We got a memo from the Design Review Board. They've reviewed the request, and based on the review of the application and the materials filed by the applicant, as well as a follow-up email confirming that the sign will be located at the same location as the existing sign and will be painted with a matte finish, we concluded the proposed sign is appropriate from a design point of view. We got a memo from the planning board, which unanimously agreed to defer judgment to us. We got a letter or a memo from Mr. Wazalewski this morning indicating that he cannot make it to the hearing tonight, so he wanted to indicate the following. He reviewed the application for the replacement of the freestanding sign. The plot plan was submitted with his application. This application does not clearly indicate the current location. The sign was replaced in 2014 and 2018 for Duxbury Fitness, and records indicate no illumination. The freestanding sign was originally permitted under special permit number 74-13 for one freestanding sign. We do not have a plot plan on file for the existing special permit, which I guess is a conclusion that we do not have a 40-year-old plot plan on file for the sign. A site visit could be conducted to view the existing location of the sign and, if approved, condition to be placed in the same location. Did we get anything else?
No, that's everything, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the way we're going to do this is first we'll hear from the applicant. Why don't you describe what the project is? You'll have questions from the board, and then once the questions from the board are answered, we'll then open it up for general public comment. Because we're doing this on TV, everybody's got to do it from the mic, and you also have to both identify yourself and tell us where you live.
I am Dr. Jennifer Johnson. I live in Hanover.
Okay.
But I am opening Pine Woods Animal Hospital at 612 Congress Street. And the application is for a sign to be placed it's in the middle of the center island at the front of the property, by the road. It's the exact same place. We're going to use the same posts. So it's the exact same sign.
You're using the same posts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sign is the same size.
All right.
Yeah. It's just with Pine Woods Animal Hospital instead of Duxbury Fitness.
All right. Does the board have any questions?
I don't. I drive by it a lot, and
Why can't they put it up under the existing special permit if they're just replacing a sign?
Right, I wondered the same thing.
who said that?
That was Judy.
Me, Judy, I'm on remote.
Yeah, you actually sound like the voice of God in this room, by the way.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good.
That's what you told us we could do.
Yeah.
Originally.
We applied for the permit originally, and then we were told we couldn't.
Well,
Here we are.
well, okay. Is there anybody who would like to ask further questions?
Yeah, me.
All right, go for it.
The site plan we do have shows the island completely outside, off of the lot. So I'm not sure we can authorize a sign on state property.
Interesting.
What? Where do you see that, Free?
This is the island right here. It kisses the lot line. It's a 50-foot wide
Oh, well, right here.
layout. That's why I'd rather see us tell them they can go put the sign up under the old permit, and then we don't have to get into those issues, but if you're replacing a sign just with something different,
It's, right.
and it's the same size and the same location and everything else, wish Jim was here to answer that question. Why does he think they need a new permit?
I don't know.
I think the last sign we did that they got a new permit, it was because the sign was different, on a taller post and a bigger sign
Yeah.
up at the village.
Yeah, I remember that. And then,
Right. Inside on their own private property. That was a little weird,
It
too.
looks like his questions are just that the plot plan doesn't clearly indicate the current location.
It doesn't indicate the location of the sign, but it clearly shows where the whole island is,
Yeah, I see that.
which is off the lot. Can we allow a sign,
Why not?
permit a sign within the state layout?
There's already one there. Nobody's from the state has squawked about it yet.
It's true.
yeah, I mean, fundamentally, I can't see any possible reason why these folks can't do what they're asking. And then it's a question solely of how do we get to that result, from my perspective. Judy, do you have any objection to us just saying, put it up under the old permit and be done with it?
I have no objection whatsoever.
Perfect. Nor do I.
We're going to suggest that this application is moot and that you should just go home and put up your sign.
It sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I move to to determine that the application is moot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, good luck.
Hopefully Jim will feel the same way.
Jim's not going to do this, but it does at the end of the day. All right,
I'm gonna recuse myself the next one.
the Beto one? Okay. So Freeman's going to, we're doing, the next one is 2024-04. James and Lisa Bedo, is that the? Bedo, sorry. And Jessica Williams is here on their behalf, and it relates to 18 Jocelyn Avenue. Freeman, you're going to recuse yourself. So Phil, Emmett, Judy, me, and Boris, right? Okay, that's the, all right. And this is the first public hearing, so the Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing tonight here to consider the application of the Betos for a special permit under Articles 400 and 900, Sections 401.3, 410.4, and 906.2 of the bylaw. The property is located at 18 Jocelyn Avenue, parcel number 120-192-000 of the Duxbury Assessor's Map, consisting of 0.17 acres in the Residential Compatibility District and owned by James and Lisa Beto. The applicants propose to raise and rebuild an existing non-conforming attached garage where the proposal is slightly more conforming. A special permit is required, and then the application can be reviewed on the website. We'll make accommodations for those who need them. And you can watch it on TV, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. We have an application. Which included a number of photographs, site plan, some drawings, including floor plans. I know that we received correspondence relative to this. So we got a memo from the, did we get anything from any of the boards?
Yes.
All right, thanks. All right. From the health agent, prior to the Board of Health signing off on a building permit, a passing Title V inspection will need to be completed and submitted to the Board of Health. This is required for any addition over 50 square feet. The Zoning Board of Appeals from Design Review Board. The petitioners are seeking a special permit to rebuild a garage with living area on the second floor with a pre-existing non-conforming lot. The petitioners were represented by Jessica Williams of Sale Architects. The Design Review Board has no objection to the proposed rebuild and believes it will be an improvement to the overall dwelling and within the keeping of the neighborhood's character. Nancy Rufo on behalf of the Conservation Commission. They've reviewed the case. It doesn't fall within the jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. No further review is required. The Planning Board unanimously agreed to defer judgment. We received an email from Joe Conway. I am directly next door to the Betos and live at 22 Jocelyn Ave. And I've discussed the project in detail with Jim and Lisa and have reviewed their plans. I have no objections to their project and encourage you to improve it. I feel the design blends very well with the architecture of our neighborhood and the size is appropriate. All right. We received additional correspondence relative to this. Stacy Walsh and Michael Skock of 57 Jocelyn Ave. They write to reflect their full support of the application, that the applicants have shared their drawings and plot plan. We wanted to ensure that we are aware and have no reservations and concerns about their plan. And also thanks to Jessica Williams, who always does a fantastic job balancing the needs, desires of her clients, all the while being so mindful of the impact changes make to the surrounding homes. And then they thanked us. We got an email from Gina Gianchetti and Ann Maloney of 44 Jocelyn Ave. The applicants have shown us the garage renovations. As a resident of Jocelyn Ave, we fully support their plan and know it will look beautiful when complete. Tom and Sheila Phipps of 23 Jocelyn Ave. Sheila and I are full support of the garage renovation. We live across the street and one house to the east of the applicants. We are aware that they have given the project careful consideration, and we have reviewed their proposed building plans. Based on this and numerous conversations, we believe they have a plan that would be attractive and beneficial. And then we also received a letter from Stephen and Marilyn Kaczynski. Dear Zoning Board of Appeals, my wife Marilyn and I live at 11 Friendship Lane in Duxbury and feel strongly that the height and mass of the proposed new structure at 18 Jocelyn Ave, with its close proximity to our property line, will be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming garage. It will exacerbate an already imposing closeness of our respective homes and significantly reduce the sunlight available to our kitchen, yard, and gardens with its location at the southwest corner of our lot. The existing non-conforming garage is only 1.5 feet from our property line. We look directly at the back of this garage because there is not enough room for a fence or plantings to buffer the view. The garage is approximately 15 and a half feet tall and only 20 feet or so from the back of our kitchen and upstairs bedroom. The proposed new structure would add an additional 7.5 feet, which represents a 44% increase. The mass of the new structure is also considerably greater because it will occupy the airspace that currently exists on either side of the slanted garage roof. The special permit application shows a 52% in gross floor area and 37% in volume of the non-conforming structure. While we cannot fully anticipate the future use of the proposed new second-floor living space, it is reasonable to think that it will bring more activity and noise to an area that is very close to our living space and bedrooms. We've lived in Duxbury for nearly 40 years, the last 25 years at our current address at 11 Friendship Lane. The house is a small cottage on a mostly quiet lane. We thank you for your service and respectfully ask that you consider the negative impacts that another large structure in close proximity to a small house would have on our neighborhood and on 11 Friendship Lane. I believe we also received a memo from Mr. Wazalewski. He reviews the application for the raise and rebuild of the pre-existing non-conforming attached garage. The plot plan submitted with the application indicates a slight increase of 0.3 feet from the westerly lot line and 0.1 from the northerly lot line. The plot plan indicates an increase of 36 square feet in non-conforming area as illustrated in the overlay. The existing building coverage as indicated on the plot plan is 1,691. The proposed coverage as indicated on the plot plan is 1,763 square feet. The maximum coverage is the sum of two calculations per the zoning bylaw as follows. 15% of 7,293 equals 1,094 square feet, plus 20,000 minus 7,293 equals another 381 square feet. As discussed and thoroughly reviewed with council, the board can approve an increase beyond the max coverage and apply the max coverage calculation as a measure to determine detriment. As shown on the building plans, there is an increase in height of the proposed structure which contributes to the non-conforming volume within the setbacks. The zoning board has previously reviewed similar scenarios. I hope you'll find this useful. Anything else?
That's everything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did with the last application. We'll hear from the applicant. We're going to ask questions, then we'll open it up to other folk to talk about it.
All right, thank you. Jessica Williams, 1243 Tremont Street, representing Jim and Lisa Beto. And am I able to share my screen? If I can figure out how to do that here. Okay. The only problem with sharing screens is then I've got all this Zoom stuff in the way. Sometimes makes it
So we
hard
can
to.
see it and you can't?
Yeah, I can't navigate around the space all that well. So this is the plot plan at 18 Jocelyn Ave. Jim and Lisa Beto have been living here for several years. It's a small house. They have 3 sons, all of whom have decided that spending time in Duxbury is something they like doing. And so there are times when they feel they need a little bit more elbow room. So subsequently, they came to me and asked me if I thought I could help them create a garage space that did a couple things. One, actually fit a car in the garage because they have a lot of storage items. Provide some overflow flex space, and then create some space that can be used as additional office space. When folks are in the house, there tend to be more than one person that needs to be a Zoom call or that kind of thing, so they're looking for separate office spaces. So the plan that you see before you indicates that we are reusing the footprint for the most part. We are cleaning up some dimensions, so therefore giving back an inch or 2. We don't really consider that substantial, but in cleaning up dimensions, it just helps us with our construction methods. And in the process, we also are requesting that we increase towards the street by 4 feet, which we don't feel is more detrimental to the neighborhood and helps us clean up the architecture a little bit and provide some of the space that we're looking for inside. The drawings I have before you are exactly the same layout that I've presented to you in your set, with some finishing, some more trim detail, a little bit of shadow, just a little bit maybe clearer to read, but no change in terms of volume or square footage or anything like that. So this is a view from the street that shows how we would have a cute little garage space. It's a 1-car garage, and in the background is the additional second level, which is a loft space. And I call it a loft because it's within the we're within the roof line. We have a 4-foot knee wall. The space that's inside, there's only a small amount that actually qualifies as room. Has to be over 7'4", and I'll show you where that I can point that out in the next one of my next drawings. But these drawings here indicate this line here is where the 15-foot setback is. So this is the view here from the north. This is from the Kaczynski side, 11 Friendship Lane. And then this is the view from the west. And in this drawing, you can see some light lines here. That is the background of the existing garage. So just to indicate, what we're talking about in terms of increase, we are taking about the top of the existing garage and considering that the top of the wall, and then adding a roof on top of that. The floor plan is looking something like this, where we have the flexible flex room, we call it, in the back here. There's a nice patio space that this building, this portion of the building helps create an edge to. It leaves us with a one-car garage, and you'll notice there's some stairs up and down. There's actually going to be some storage in a lower level, basement level as well. The loft is, again, all for the most part within the roof line. And what this drawing here indicates is this layer here is the main garage level. Everything below this is all basement storage. What we're doing is slicing through the building. This line here is indicating the slice through the building. And so we're looking at towards the east as we slice through the building. What I'm showing here, there's a line here that's called out as 7'4" height. That's just to help indicate that we are sort of within the roof line up above. And these knee walls here and here are 4-foot knee walls. There's a shorter section, this area here, that it has 4-foot knee walls, but doesn't go the entire width. The drawings look like this from the patio space. As I said, there's sort of a shorter section. That is that area there. And then behind it is a taller section that gives a little bit more head height up top. This is, again, the Kaczynski side. We have a small dormer. What I'd like to do is point out too in this plan here, this 7'4" height shows that the dormer is just letting light in and that nobody could actually look out of it unless they're up on a chair or something like that. So we've purposely designed this so that it doesn't have anybody looking down on to the Kaczynski's
So
yard.
that's what they'll be looking at, that view right there?
They would be looking at this view right here.
Okay.
That's their side. From the street, this is the view. Here's, again, how the two roof lines are sort of change in the background. And then from the west, this is the view. There is a structure just west of this, so there really isn't any opportunity for windows on the lower side. We just wanted to bring a couple of windows in for light on the taller portion here. And this is showing that there's a foundation below. What I'd like to do is show you here, we reached out to a number of neighbors and provided the drawings to several of them. Mr. Kaczynski was able to give me a call, and I went over with him the plans, and we were able to discuss how I try to describe what the plans indicated. He then gave me permission to take a walk over on his property, so I was able to take this photo. This is from their back patio. This is the Kaczynski's house here. Here's the existing garage in the background. And this is a photoshopped image that we created using my 3D software so that I could make it as accurate as I possibly could to indicate what the structure would look like from their back patio space. Here's a couple more images from the Kaczynski side. I just want to point out that there's sun and there's some shadow and some sunlight coming through, and it's quite a bit above where the roof line would be. This was Super Bowl Sunday at 2:30. This is another image to show what's actually happening as the back of the Beto's garage has a bunch of vines growing on it. So there would be, I think, some kind of indication that there would be a fence or something to prevent vines from growing up on the building, if possible, down the road. That hasn't been something we've specifically discussed. In order to help alleviate some of the concerns of the Kaczynskis, I actually have created some sun studies. And what I'd like to do is show you what it looks like today. Excuse me if I can just do this. Sun study today. So I'll slow it down. In the wintertime with low sun, and I basically just created this box here in the background as a pretty good representation of the square foot of the volume that the Kaczynskis have, just so that you can see sort of where their building is in relationship to the Beto's building. With the sun today, there is a portion of time right there, which is and we'll kind of look at it, at about 2 o'clock until about 3:30 or so, 4:30, there is some shadow on their structure, February 22nd. By March 1st, if I can find March 1st, I'm going to skip over to April. You know what? It's under the Zoom, I think.
No, it's there. March 1st.
It's there.
Oh, there it
It's
is.
right next
Sorry.
to it, Jessica.
Sorry, I just was having trouble seeing it. And I'll slow this down. So by next week, you'll notice that the amount of time that the shadow reaches the house is much smaller. And again, there's other things, there's trees and other things in the way. So, there's, while this is helpful, I don't know if the shadow at the end of the day is actually necessarily coming only from this structure or coming from the trees that are there as well. By May 1st, oops, sorry, it goes so fast, I have to slow it down again. By May 1st, there's basically no shadow on the Kaczynski's house coming from this structure. And then we can look at June and September. There's a number of others just to indicate that it doesn't get worse as the summer happens, that the main time where there would be a little bit of shadow is just in the darkest time of the year, in the winter when the sun is just setting lower than typical. And I'd be happy to take your questions.
My question involves, in part, something that Jim Wasilewski wrote.
Mm-hmm.
And he seems to suggest there's a slight increase and of 0.3 feet from the westerly lot line and from 0.1 from the northerly lot line, but I don't read the plans that way. What?
I think what he meant is there's a slight increase in our
Compliance?
Yes, we're becoming more compliant by 0.3 in one direction and more compliant by 0.1 in another.
Oh, it's a slight increase in terms of you're slightly more compliant.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
right.
Okay, I get it now.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, that's.
Is that what it said?
I think that's,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
it's-
that's accurate.
Yeah, that's what it looks like on the plan.
I'm not going closer to the plot
Right,
line, I'm going
right.
further away, but that's an increase in,
It's increasing conformity.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that's I get it now,
It's just oddly expressed, that's all.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I should point out that both Lisa and Jim Beto are attending online as well.
So, the other part of Jim's email, which is all about the 15% rule, to the extent that we can call it that. This property is already over 15%, so it's already non-compliant as to coverage.
Correct.
All right, all right. And so the reason he's applying the 15% rule is just to determine, is to make it at least some indication as to detriment, as opposed to whether we can permit this.
Correct. I understood it that you are able to permit it because we are already over that amount, and that would be up to you whether or not you would consider it more detrimental.
Yeah, all right, I get it. Yeah, I don't have any questions. Other people have questions?
So it's a full foundation?
We're hoping to do that, yeah.
That'll be tricky, huh? 18 inches from the,
Yeah, we'll,
Lot line?
if need be, we'll make adjustments as needed, but that's how we were gonna get started, to see if we can get that to happen, to give them a little bit more storage below. So it'll probably be a pre-stressed concrete panel garage floor. So the builder has indicated that we can do it.
Jessica, can we go back to the sun shadow
Sure.
study for just a minute and take a look at the December 21st,
Sure.
please?
Let me see if I can find it here. December, here we go, 21st. Okay, I've got to slow it down. So this is December 21st. Which obviously the sun is much lower that time of year, and the sun is setting
Earlier.
much earlier, yeah.
Yeah. That's the worst case scenario.
That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. Can we just let it run,
Yeah, absolutely.
please?
But not as fast as it wants to run.
Yeah.
It's on the, sorry, the Zoom thing gets right in the way. There we go.
There we go.
At the end of the day, because of where the sun is setting so low in the sky, there is some, that's
Yeah.
the most
You know,
detrimental.
things just turns dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
That's a really useful illustration. Thank you for providing it.
Yeah, I'm glad that my program has the capability.
It's much appreciated. We have requested that on other projects and not received it,
Yeah, it's extremely useful.
as well as other types of graphics that you provide. So I want to thank you for it.
Yeah, it's a good one. All
Yeah,
right.
I think that's the first time I've seen this before. That's pretty cool. Do you have one with a solar eclipse?
No, I do not.
All right. Does the board have other questions?
No?
All right, so why don't we open it up for public comment? I suspect there are people on the board who want to talk, and if there are people here who want to talk, just take the microphone, identify yourself, and say your piece. Okay, nobody here. All right, let's go to the, I'm going to describe as the wall.
Do you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, because we're going to have to
Sorry about
see
that.
who wants to participate.
Right.
Oh, I thought okay.
All
Hi,
right.
This is Tom Phipps. I'll make one observation. The illustration, while it's quite good for the building shadow, doesn't really take into consideration the trees in the area. And I think the trees in the neighbors' trees to the west will probably have a larger sun shadow than the proposed structure.
Okay. Are there others who would like to weigh in here?
So this is Steve Kaczynski. I would like to weigh in as well, if everybody else is done. I am the neighbor that is at Wetland Friendship on my way to your home. So the board members and Lisa and Jim. I want to say first that Jim and Lisa Goodell and their sons are wonderful people and great neighbors, and they have been, and we would expect that not to change. close to us. In fact, if you measure the distance from our back door to the current non-conforming garage, it's less than the proposed height of the new structure. And while those sun shadow images were interesting to me, even the ones that looked later in the spring and summer looked somewhat detrimental. And I'm wondering if, detrimental to the neighborhood is confined to certain months of the year, or it would include all months of the year. We're seeing that if it's detrimental at any month of the year, it's still detrimental. We would actually have no real issue with the new structure if it had conformed to the 15-foot setback. But the fact that it's just so close to us creates a number of issues for us. It's not just the sunlight that falls on the house and the yard and the gardens at different times of the year. It's also the sunlight that you can see from inside the house looking out at what is now a larger structure. By the application, looked like the over 52% additional square footage and 37% or so in new volume. And we tried to say in our email that that's because you're basically taking a structure which is, looks like this, and you're building up on either side of it. So it's now square and so there's actually quite a lot of additional mass that we'd be looking at. And if I could go to my screen share just for a minute, I'd like to share, if I could, some of the photographs of what we would be looking at with that new structure.
Yeah, if we can do it, let's do it.
Yeah, I should be able to see screen share.
Well, first I'll show you what our property looks like. This is from the front of our house. And you can see that it's a rather small house. We were having our chimney replaced when this was taken. It was rather sad there. This area here is the cupola on the Beto home. It looks like it's part of our house, but it's not. It actually sits behind us. And it probably sits behind us a good 15 feet, because I think that is compliant. It's the garage on the other side here that's not compliant. This is the chimney of the Beto residence. Just to give you some perspective about where their property lies and how close it lies relative to our property. Trying to move some of this stuff around so that I can find my photographs. This is what we see now when we look at the property. And keep in mind, I think this is roughly 15.5 feet according to Jessica. And it's going to go up another 7.5 in all of this area here, which we now have views of the sky, and will go away, or at least some of it will. This is a picture that is taken from Jessica's presentation, and this shows the front of the Beto property with the proposed new roof. But I believe, Jessica can correct me if I'm wrong, but the roof line for the front of the garage mirrors the one currently in the back of the garage. So this gives a fairly good representation of how much larger the addition will be over the existing roof line, and something that we have to look at because we're within 20 feet of that structure. I'll just show you some views from, actually this is just something that we now look at to, and again, this is the front, and we'll be looking back. From inside our house, this is our kitchen, we're looking out over the sink. And so this is our view of the property currently. And you can see that having something above us like that would take out a lot of that sunlight for us. These photographs are of the second floor of the house. This is my son's bedroom on the second floor, looking directly out at the structure. And here you see the cupola and the garage, and this, of course, is where the new addition will go, so it's going to block this view from that bedroom. This, I believe, is the same view of the bedroom, just looking a little bit further to the right. So again, you can imagine something in that view, and white. And then this is a picture from the second of 3 bedrooms upstairs. Looking somewhat to the right, this bedroom does not look directly at that, but it certainly has a view of that. And it has a view of the trees and the sky above. This was part of the application, and it's where I've gotten numbers for the gross floor area, which increases 52%, and the volume goes up 37%. And, you know, I'm hearing that we're becoming more compliant. I guess if you just look at where the lot is, because we're moving in by a few inches on our property line and a few inches on another property line, it is, I guess, more compliant from that standpoint. And maybe I just don't understand non-compliance very well, but, you know, going up an additional 7.5 feet and having all of this additional floor area and volume seems as though we are expanding the non-compliant nature of the existing property. And just going to the zoning bylaws, I just excerpted this from the zoning bylaws. And for the purposes of the section, the determination substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood include such things as the general and immediate neighborhood from the resulting height, the building coverage, width, and so on. Additionally, a determination whether an altered, reconstructed, extended, or structural change structure will be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood shall include resulting impacts to the views, vistas from abutting properties, potential increase in traffic or noise, or surface water runoff related planning issues. So it seems fairly clear, at least to this neighbor, that there are detrimental impacts. And I think most of the positive feedback we've gotten on the Beto construction is from Jocelyn Ave, which is on the other side of the non-compliant structure, and therefore seems to me anyway to be less of a concern to them than it would be to Maryland and myself. The final thing I would say is that this is the existing structure right here, right, the roof line. And you can see that basically you've got a runoff rainfall on the east side and the west side of the building presently. Now we're changing the orientation of the roof line here so that now runoff of rainwater goes both north and south. And unfortunately, the runoff from this side of the building goes directly into our backyard. There's not a lot of land back there to absorb that water. Now I know that the house is going to come equipped with gutters, but I also know that in heavy rainfalls, Those gutters are easily overflowed, and even our own gutters, we get this type of an issue coming off our property. And I would expect it to do the same with the proposed property. And again, this was something that's specifically identified in the zoning bylaws, is to pay attention to possible problems from surface water runoff. And I think this does represent a potential problem, given that all this mass is now going to be going north or south rather than east and west. So, stop the screen share and just say that look, the Baders are good people, and we want to keep a good relationship with them. And if this wasn't so close to our property, I'm sure this would not be an issue. But we're the second owners of the house that was built, we think, in the 1920s. It may not be a historic structure, but it is to us. And when we have large additions going up around us, that impacts our little cottage on Friendship Lane. It makes us sad. And so I would ask the board to ask that you try to put yourselves in our position living in this property. And think about whether you would want a special permit granted for a similar project 20 feet from your back door. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Are there other folks who would like to weigh in? Does the applicant want to respond to any of that?
Well, I can appreciate what Mr. Kaczynski has stated in terms of the adjacency to his home. The opportunity to adjust or have space does not, because of the fact that we need a special permit, is not a reason why we wouldn't be able to block a similar amount of view in a similar way with a different design, which may not require a special permit. So the process of going through this is allowing us to build on top of the existing footprint, and we feel that the slope of the roof is sloping away from his building, so the impact of massing is reduced as it slopes away. If we were to have kept the gable in a similar way, there would be actually a taller wall, which would be more impactful than a wall that slopes away from him. So we have been considerate, I believe, on the design process, and feel that we've done the best we can with considering the space that we have.
Although I almost hesitate to do this, but I'm going to ask anyway. I couldn't tell from the plan how big is the eave that sticks towards the other property?
The eave?
Yeah.
A couple of inches.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the point about the gutters?
Yeah, we would have gutters on this structure. Absolutely. It also will, if water does make its way over the gutter, we do have a couple of feet, a little bit that is where we'd likely have some building material so that it would help absorb any water that might splash over.
Jessica, I'm just not sure how that would be the case. If you're going 1.5 feet from the property line and you
We would basically add drainage material should that period of time where it is a major flood type of rainstorm overflow a gutter, but the intent would be that the gutters would absorb the water that's coming off of the roof.
Okay. Are there is there anybody else who has additional input? Are there other questions from the board?
No.
Okay. Would anybody like to make a motion?
Well,
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Yes, of course.
You know, we have another case here of a non-conforming property and two findings we have to make. One is whether the proposed project increases the non-conforming nature of the structure, and the second is, will the proposed change result in a substantial increase? It would be substantially more detrimental, excuse me, to the neighborhood. So I think we should start there.
Agreed.
it certainly is to the, Mr. Kaczynski.
Well, let's do the increase in non-conforming nature of the structure first, because that's the first door.
So Judy, do you want to have this conversation before we close, or do you want to have it after we close?
Well, I mean, I think we should,
I'm asking.
I think we need to sort out how we're gonna view those criteria.
Okay.
I mean, we go through this every single time we have a project like this.
Yeah, and it's not the first one
And
on.
it's a struggle.
And it's not the first one on this same road.
Mm-hmm. I know. I mean, I don't know that there's much of an argument on an increase in the non-conforming nature of the structure. They are decreasing, a bit the lot line nonconformity, but I mean, there's other increases in nonconformity, so I don't think that's really an issue. I think it's the substantial detriment. So, you know, if you all kind of agree that maybe that's where we need to narrow the focus, then maybe we should just go ahead and, you know, take a motion to close the hearing and think about how we're gonna deal with that. I mean, I don't feel like I need more information. I mean, you guys do, but I think we have the information we need.
No, the presentation was excellent.
Yeah.
Both presentations were excellent. That's what's going to make this one tough.
Yeah, that's true.
So with that, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
All right, I'll second.
All in favor?
I, Wayne.
I am it.
Hi, Phil.
Hi, Judy.
Hi, Morris.
Okay, so the hearing is closed, and I'm gonna then open things up for discussion. Judy, you've already alluded to what sometimes we talk about, the two doors, right? I don't see how this increases the non-conforming nature, given that the nature of the non-conformities were setback non-conformities, and there were,
Well,
and there was.
no, they also.
And what,
Oh,
I was
sorry,
about,
go ahead.
I was almost, and the other nonconformity was lot coverage, but the lot coverage addition is minimal. And there is, I'm gonna say at most a minimal improvement with respect to the other nonconformities, but overall, with respect to the first door that we talk about, I don't think it is substantially more nonconforming. But I'm happy to hear from anybody else.
Well, I happen to agree with you.
I do also. But
So by and large, it does come down to whether there's a substantial detriment. And then the question of what factors do you consider in the detriment? One of the,
Well, then, but Mr. Chair, if there really is no substantial increase in the non-conforming nature of the existing structure, then our work is done. You don't go through the second door. If the first finding is really the operative one.
that's right.
If the proposed alteration extension, itself conforms and does not intensify any existing nonconformity, the zoning enforcement officer may issue a building permit and application to the Board of Appeals need not be made. Now, the application's in front of us to make that determination.
You want to read it again one more time, please?
Proposed alteration, extension, or structural change itself conforms to the requirements of the present bylaw and does not intensify any existing nonconformities or result in any additional nonconformities. So if they're decreasing the nonconformity of the setback, and the other aspects of the project conform, do we have an increase in the nonconforming nature of the structure?
So,
Now, if we do, then we need to go to the second door, but if we don't, then we're done.
so you helped me a great deal with reading it because you asked whether, because the board is asked to determine whether it increases any existing nonconformity, and it in fact increases lot coverage nonconformity.
Okay. So then we have a matter we have to discuss. I mean, if there's an increase in the nonconformity, there's an increase, and so the question is now, does the proposed project result in a substantially greater detriment than the existing condition
Right. And
on
so
the neighborhood and the, community as a whole?
taking into account, among other things, the views from abutting properties.
Mm-hmm.
Jim's,
So you have to,
no, sorry, Jim's memo talks about one consideration of detriment, and that's the application of the so-called 15% rule. At least given the numbers that Jim provided, it appears that in and of itself doesn't suggest detriment.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to be candid with the board and with the folks who are the applicants and the people who are submitted here. This is a very, very difficult case for me, in large measure because it's a very nicely designed and conceived project. But there are real concerns, some of which are directly addressed in the bylaw in terms of what we need to consider, including views from abutting properties.
if I'm hearing the interpretation of the bylaw correctly, we do not get through the first door, as it's been described, because of despite the decrease in nonconformity in distance to lot line, which is an improvement, but because there is an increase in lot coverage on an already non-conforming lot, we can't get through the first door. So from here, we have to go to the second door to determine if it is significantly detrimental to the neighborhood. And I agree with Mr. Dennison that this is a very nice project. It looks like the addition and the change would improve the appearance and utility of the home for the for the homeowners, I get drawn up by the increase, the detriment to the neighborhood. And in this case, Mr. and Mrs. Kaczynski are the neighborhood. And they've expressed an opinion, and they've supported their opinion very well, in my opinion, that it is detrimental to their enjoyment of their property. It's a very difficult position for us to be put in. There's no question about it. But
So is it substantially more detrimental, because that's the standard?
Yep, that's the standard.
in my opinion, and everyone else has their own, I'm sure, in my opinion, it, unfortunately for the applicant, I view it as more detrimental to the neighborhood.
So for a special permit to pass, we need 4 or 5, right, Judy?
Yes.
And we often, when things are close, take straw polls so that we don't put applicants in a position where we give them denials that have, 2-year impediments to coming back. And I think that this would be one of those times when I think a straw poll would be appropriate, just so that in the event that the board were to deny this application, we're likely to deny this application, that at least the applicants wouldn't be barred by the 2-year period to come back with something else.
They'd be able to revise their plan to.
Yeah.
So, if possible, before even the straw vote, I wouldn't mind taking a walk out there, honestly. Standing in their backyard before I say yay, nay, or even a straw vote. Anybody feel that way? I can picture the Jocelyn Ave house, but I don't have a picture in my head of the other side at all. I should.
With the permission of the Kaczynskis, I actually went out there yesterday. And I do have a pretty clear picture in my head. It's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, rather denying or approving or anything, I kind of wouldn't mind that. Does the party object to possibly pushing this?
To allow for a site visit.
Yeah, it's a big decision,
I think, I can speak for my clients that we prefer to have a site visit, so that your decision can be based on having been on site. And if at that point, and so if therefore that means that we're going to a continuation, I think I prefer to go for a continuation than a vote. But I would appreciate some kind of guidance in terms of straw poll, just so that, whether we're looking at thinking about the design further, or if this is something we should wait until you have had your site visit.
Well, Lauren, when could we see this again?
Would that require reopening the hearing? I've never done something like that. So if we were to continue.
Right, because it's all admit would be.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to reopen.
Okay.
Right, you'd have to reopen.
Okay, I
Right,
wasn't.
yeah, so, and I don't.
Right.
And I don't see any real drawback to reopening in favor of a site visit. There is real benefit to seeing the facts on the ground.
Right.
No, March 14th, we only have one case, and March 28th is open, so either of those dates or beyond.
Well, there's no reason we can't get out there before March 14th. I mean,
I can.
I went out there yesterday.
Yeah, I certainly can.
Yeah. So why don't, I'm going to move to reopen this public
I'll
hearing.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye,
Aye, Wayne.
Aye, Phil.
Emmett.
Hi, Boris.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, all right. So I'm going to move that we continue this public hearing till March 14th.
Before we do that, do we need to obtain Mr. Kaczynski's permission to, because we really need to be in his backyard to have an effective site visit?
Yeah, if quite frankly, you're right, Phil. I assumed as much because the second I asked, he said yes yesterday.
No, there's absolutely no problem. In fact, I would prefer that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I figured as much
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
but
All right, so let's arrange a site visit between now and March 14th. I take it, Mr. Kaczynski, that you're traveling or away?
Oh, you're muted.
Or on
you're
mute?
you're muted.
Yes, we're currently away in Florida.
Yeah. Is there any time when you're going to be back before March 14th?
We have no plans to be, but we do have somebody watching the house for us, so if,
Okay. Yeah.
So could we pop by informally? Do you mind that?
no, not at all.
Okay.
Or if you'd like to have somebody there, we can have somebody there for you.
If you could figure out a time, that might be like herding cats at this point.
But I'd prefer that everybody show up at
Okay.
the same time,
All right.
that, you know, the applicant has a chance to say a few things if they want to, that we have a kind of formal site visit. That doesn't preclude anybody from popping by whenever they want to.
Throw a date out. Wayne, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm around.
Yeah, I can be around.
We just need to be careful on a site visit, that we're not having conversations with people outside the public hearing.
Yep, I hear you.
I was gonna say the same thing, that if you wanted to have a site visit and the Betos would be there during the site visit, I would make arrangements to be there as well.
Yeah, I don't want to drag you back from Florida.
But we're not there to take testimony anyway.
You're right, we're just there to look around.
Right.
All right, so there won't be any testimony at the things.
Right.
So why don't we do this? Emmett has convinced me that let's each commit to going by there and looking at it
Informally?
informally.
Okay.
Yeah, that way that we don't have any issue with open meeting law, we don't have any issue with taking testimony outside and then we're going to get views that are consistent with whatever the individual people think are important. All right, so we're going to commit, each of us, to go there and look at it before the 14th, but I would like to continue this to the March 14th.
I would second that motion.
All right, all in favor, aye, Wayne?
Aye, Phil.
I am it.
I
Hi,
do.
Boris.
Yeah. All right, well,
Okay.
thank you, and I want to thank both the applicant and Mr. Kaczynski for their presentations tonight. They were just simply excellent. All right. The third matter on for tonight is a new one as well. It's 2024-05 and deals with 3 Pine Point Place. The board will hold a public hearing tonight via Zoom to consider the application of a Robert and Lee Larkin.
I'm off.
All right, Emmett can't do this one. Freeman, can you?
Yep.
All right. good.
Although I think my son-in-law put the fire out. Is that a conflict?
I don't think it's a conflict to put the fire out. There,
He didn't do a good job, he didn't say much.
All right. All right. We're going to hold a public hearing to consider the application of Robert and Lee Larkin, care of Seacoast Engineering, for a special permit under Articles 400 and 900, Sections 401.2, 402, 404, and 906.2 of the Duxbury Protective Bylaw. The property is located at 3 Pine Point Place, parcel number 141-941-010 of the Duxbury Assessor's Map, consisting of .26 acres in the residential compatibility, wetlands protection overlay, and flood hazard overlay districts, and owned by Robert and Lee Larkin. The applicants proposed to rebuild a pre-existing non-conforming detached garage on an open pile foundation. The pre-existing garage was destroyed by fire on December 23, 2022. Special permit is required. You could see the application on the town's website. Those with disabilities, we would make accommodation for, and you can watch it on TV, Verizon 39 or Comcast 9. We have the application. We have a site plan and a number of drawings reflecting the new garage. We have a memo from the Design Review Board. The petitioners are seeking a special permit to reconstruct the garage with a second floor exercise area on an open pile foundation within a flood hazard overlay. The previous non-conforming garage was destroyed in December of 2022. All right. The footprint of the new garage will remain the same, however, the height will increase from 17.7 to 25.75 feet. The petitioners were represented by Archiplicity, who presented the site plan through elevations, neighboring letters of support, and a EPA wetlands form. The DBR reviewed all of the elevations, has no objections to the proposed rebuild, and finds it in keeping with the neighborhood's evolving character, leaning towards raised structures. Nancy Rufo, on behalf of the Conservation Commission, said, "I reviewed the application and noted the project. It falls under the jurisdiction of the Concom. The applicant filed a notice of intent and received an order of conditions. Those orders are attached. No further action is needed. The property is located in the Marshfield Septic Treatment Plant, and therefore the Board of Health has no comments. The Planning Board chose to defer judgment to us. Jennifer Leach of 10 Pine Point Place indicates that we have seen the Larkins plan for the new garage. It offers some improvements for them and is in keeping with the neighborhood aesthetic. We support the project." I know that Mr. Wazalewski also weighed in on this and said something meaningful, I'm sure.
It's ready, I have it right here.
There we go. I reviewed the application to reconstruct a previously non-conforming garage, which was destroyed by fire at the mentioned property. The matter is before you due to an increase in height contributing to a rise in the non-conforming volume and its location within the property setbacks. Otherwise, I have no additional comments with this application. Did we get anything else?
No, but included with the application were 7 letters of support from neighbors. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to hear from the applicant first, and then if there are questions for the board, we'll ask them, and then we'll open it up for general comment. So why don't we hear from the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Paul Brogdon, Seacoast Engineering, Duxbury, engineer for the Larkin family. With me this evening is Mrs. Lee Larkin, owner of the property at 3 Pine Point, Jennifer Bernsteel, Archiplicity, their architect, her husband Tim, who's an observer, and myself. We're here this evening to discuss the request for the special permit, and as you already indicated, the original garage was destroyed by fire on Friday, December 23rd, 2022.
So Paul, because I looked at this today, because I was wondering about it, so you're entitled to restore it within 3 years. It has to be substantially constructed within 3
It's
years.
an act of God, 3 years, Mr. Wozlowski told us.
Yeah, that's
couple
what the
days after
bylaw
fire.
says.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're basically here to request special permit permission to reconstruct the garage in the same dimensions, the same location to today's standards. So as you heard from the Conservation Commission, we went before them a few months ago. They issued the order of conditions. We're proposing to put the garage on an open pile foundation, whether it's wood or concrete, that is yet to be determined. We had very little wiggle room. So in other words, same garage, same location, same dimensions. By raising it up 3.5 feet, by raising up to 3.5 feet, we have created a need for the front entrance or the side entrance in. So this is an elevated entrance into the structure to get up to the elevation 11.5. There's actually a shower house that's been here before from a disturbed property viewpoint. So when you look at the building coverage components, it's actually gone up about 42 square feet from 13% to 13.3%. So it's still within the 15% coverage, but obviously this is required out of necessity and safety to provide access up. The patio that's been here before, because that's going to be 3 feet lower, is now proposed to be an open deck that has to be elevated as well. There'll be one step down, about 6 inches down to elevation 11. So theoretically, what you see here for the proposed garage, same exact dimensions as what had been there before, outside of the needs here to bring everything up to code requirements, flood, FEMA zone requirements as well.
This is going to be a crazy question, but if you're raising a garage, how do you get the vehicles in it?
There will be a ramp.
Okay. And is the ramp is there coverage, does the ramp count as coverage?
Not unless it has a roof.
Not unless it has a roof, that's right.
Exactly. It's
That's
just a
what-
normal ramp that you see a few homes on Gurnett Road have on your way out there. So in that respect, you'll be designed in accordance with those requirements by the structural engineer to make it work and have it functional. I think a couple of the minor items, when you look at the articles and sections that are required here, Article 401 Section 401.2, number 4, basically indicates that, we conform to the requirements of the present bylaw, and we do not increase the intensity of what we're proposing versus what had been there before. And obviously, it's not substantially more detrimental at this point in time. Section 402 talks about the flood hazard area with FEMA, with the 100-year flood requirements. The FEMA zone is AE 10 for that area of town, and the first floor elevation is 11.5. And talked to Jim Wozlowski about it. We should be at least 1 foot above, so we went from 10 to 11 plus an extra 6 inches. So that's an easy compliance there. And I think when you come down to 906.2 on the special permit requirements, the benefit of the town outweigh the adverse effects of the project. I think in many cases, the letter you receive from the neighbors next door, and I think as Lauren had indicated, there were 5 or 6 other letters that have come in as well. I don't think you read them, but they basically all say the same thing.
Yeah,
So we
they
have
were
7
literally the
letters,
same
7
letter.
butters that
Yeah.
are in support of the project, and I think that goes a long way to the homework that the Larkins have done to design something that's compatible, functional, and aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood and to the Larkin family themselves.
So these letters come from what appear to be very, very close abutters: 16 Pine Point, 15 Pine Point, 24 Pine Point, 19, 4, 40, 11.
Are all the direct abutters, do they have all the direct abutters written letters in favor of it? Do you
I
know?
don't think all of them premium, but, 3 or 4 of them have, the ones with the lower numbers on Pine Point are the ones closer to Pine Point Place where the Larkins live. I know 40 Pine Point Road is a tear down and rebuild that you permitted, the special permit a few months ago. That's about 200 feet around the corner, but they're close, but they're not direct abutters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does the board have questions on this?
I'm wondering about the planning board's comment. Do they need a special permit? Because,
I think the only reason they came for the special permit was because they made it higher and with greater volume.
In other words, when I talked to Jim about this, really a year and a half or so ago, well, 13 or 14 months, yes, and in the application shows that the square footage of the structure has gone up from 170 square feet to 202 square feet, or about 19% increase. The volume has gone up a lesser percentage, about 11.2%, because of the use of the second story that's proposed. Jennifer can address very easily and completely the design structure itself, the 4 elevations, and both the first and second floor proposals. So,
but they're still conforming in
Oh, definitely
building
conforming.
coverage.
And
So what are
height-
they not conforming in?
rear line setback is 7.9 to the lot line.
But that's the same as it used to be.
Yeah,
Correct,
so you have a right to do that.
correct.
Yeah.
But as Jim said, because we're completing the second floor, making it more functional, that, in his opinion, makes the special permit through the public review process a necessity versus just a special permit by right.
I'm not sure that we need a special permit, but.
But they're here, so we might as well give it to them.
Right, but it might be, it might just be better to get it. Are there any other comments?
Do you want to spend 30 seconds just going over the four elevations, and there you go.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Burnsteel from Archiplicity. I did the architectural plans for the Larkins. And I just want to speak to, we tried to make the building so that it fit the area. We tried to be not any more impactful than the existing building was. The closest abutting neighbor, I'm just going to take this, is actually on the stair side. It's on the, so that you can see we don't have any windows on that side, so that there isn't any view looking down onto them. And we've located the circulation on that side, so there won't be any living areas or noise impacting the closest neighbor. And we've also added a wall at the deck, which is also there to not impact their view or their noise, so they're not having to see what's going on over in the Larkins yard. We're still they used this upstairs as an exercise area previously, and we're not changing the use of that, and the downstairs is a garage as it was, and we're using a ramp to get up there. So part of the increase in height is to be able to get up to the garage.
Okay.
Isn't the west elevation actually the east elevation?
Front would be west.
What's that?
Facing Duxbury, facing the bay.
Cape Cod Bay or Duxbury Bay?
Duxbury Bay,
Would be west.
correct, facing back towards here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, this is upside down. Now it makes sense. No, this is still east over where the driveway is, isn't it? Isn't that the east side of the lot?
The east elevation is facing the ocean.
Yeah, that's right, so the garage is on the west side of the house.
Yeah.
Okay. In my compass. My only other comment is, I'm kind of surprised that the design review board doesn't have more to say about it. They always talk about windows and trim or they used to. The last two, they haven't said much.
I took it to mean that they liked it.
Okay. Well, they used to pick apart everything.
I'm not going to attempt to get into their minds,
Okay.
just as I would hope they wouldn't attempt to get into mine.
I don't have any further questions. Does anybody else have any questions? Judy, Boris?
I
I'm
don't have
good,
any
thank you.
questions.
Yeah. Is there anybody else would like to weigh in? Anybody on the wall? Okay, I don't think we have I was gonna move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye,
Wayne.
Phil?
I,
Hi,
Hi,
Freeman.
Boris.
I do.
I'm not positive that they need a special permit, but
Me either.
I'm gonna move to grant the special permit.
Yep. I'll
Why
second
do we
it.
think they need one?
We don't,
And we're not sure that they do, but, I mean,
but they already paid their fees. They might as well just give it to them. Not debate it?
yeah, it's,
Well, except then whatever is happening there is now governed by the special permit as opposed to what they could do as of right.
Could you read Mr. Woslewski's last sentence in his email from today? I think it was, he indicated, again, because of the use, or the increase in square footage of the second floor, in his opinion, it required the special permit through this process versus permit by right, even after the fire.
Oh, that's a good point.
all right.
So there's a,
Well, what does living area have to do with zoning? We'll ask him to explain at the next meeting.
Well, he just says that the matter is before you due to an increase in height contributing to a rise in non-conforming volume and its location within the property setbacks.
But we don't have a volume requirement.
No,
That's the problem.
I know,
And
we
the-
never have.
the footprint is
The
identical
footprint's
to
the
what
same.
burned down, so.
We look at volume, I'm sorry.
No, please continue.
Look at volume in terms of
Me?
detrimental to the
Yes,
neighborhood.
Judy, thank you.
Right, I think Freeman just said what I was going to say, it's a helpful metric for the substantial increase, if you will, but we don't regulate it.
So here's my only concern about this, because I'm not convinced they need a special permit either, but Jim thinks they do. And he issues the building permits. So,
We'd be setting up a roadblock.
so why don't we just give it the special permit and make this thing happen?
That's fine, I don't want to make life hard for this applicant, it's
Yeah.
just not,
Yeah.
And we'll ask Jim next time we see him why he thinks.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so I moved and somebody seconds, so all in favor?
I second it.
All right. I, Wayne.
We're voting to approve the
I do.
application for the special
Aye, Laura.
permit, correct?
Yep, yep.
Aye, Phil.
And I, Freeman.
Okay, so we've approved the special permit. Thank you. Is there anything else to do?
That's everything.
Then I'm going to move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, Wayne.
No.
Aye, Phil.
I do.
Okay.
Freeman.
Night, Judy, night, Boris.
Good night.
Boris. Thank you.